Hello everyone, welcome to FedScoop TV. My name is Greg Otto and we're here at FedTalks 2016 today, and I'm talking with Amit Yoran, the president of RSA. Amit, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So it has been a wild year so far for cybersecurity. I'd love to get your reaction to everything that's gone on, and I know that it's been a lot, but we'll try to condense it down. Your reaction to how this really affects the cybersecurity marketplace moving forward.
Yeah, boy, everything that's going on, it's a good thing we have 3.5 hours for this interview. The one thing to bear in mind, and I think will continue to prove itself out, is that the cyber domain and the cyber market is incredibly dynamic. The technologies that we're required to defend, right, the technology used by our organizations are dynamic. We're embracing cloud, we're embracing virtual infrastructure, we've embraced mobile and BYOD infrastructure. We have greater interconnectivity between our organizations and the people we serve. So the compute environment is changing dramatically. The threat environment is changing dramatically. I know there's been a lot of talk recently about a decreased quantity of attacks. What I can tell you definitively, these attacks are not going away. And the sophisticated threat actors are incredibly aggressive. We see them day in, day out, evolving their techniques so that they're operating in a much stealthier fashion. And they're going after, there's a broader set of actors, which are incredibly sophisticated, and they're going after a broader set of targets. It's not just the traditional compute infrastructure and the sensitive databases. They're going after mail, they're going after file servers, they're going after a much broader attack surface. So we have to be incredibly dynamic in the cyber domain to keep up with all of this change.
So you talked about these actors being so aggressive and moving so fast. What can enterprises do to keep up when the attack vectors are just, so wide and they have to protect so much? How do you move at the speed of an actor in order to protect your infrastructure?
Yeah, great question. In order to survive, you gotta move. And before you can move fast, you gotta move.
Right.
So the thing you can't do is apply your traditional paradigm, apply your security strategy, dust it off from 5 years ago and think it's gonna help you survive. It won't. Too much reliance on perimeter and perimeter firewall technologies. Even next-gen firewalls, they're great, they're better than last gen, but ain't the future. If you look at sandboxing technologies, a much more dynamic, much better way of detecting malware than traditional static AV, but detecting a piece of malware is not an advanced threat strategy. So as you look at your security strategy, what you do is you have to realize where are my new leverage points as this world changes at such a dynamic pace, right? One is identity, authentication, identity, and access management, making sure that only the right people have access, they can't be spearphished, and that you're really controlling that point. And by the way, that might be one of the fewer points you can rely on as your applications and as your data go to the cloud or coming off mobile. So you have to really think through that anchor point. There's an issue of greater visibility, right? The attack methods have changed. It's not just an exploit. They're orchestrating sophisticated campaigns until they get into the environment, right? These are focused adversaries. And when that's the case, you have to really change how you're doing your end-to-end visibility. You can't just rely on firewall logs and IDS alerts. Those legacy signature things don't work in this environment. So you need increased visibility in addition to stronger identity access management. And you have to know what matters to your organization. You can't defend everything at all times. That's a failed strategy. So you need to really be able to prioritize the mission and what is sensitive to your organization and make sure that you're investing the right resources and capability and talent at that most critical point.
So a lot of our audience is government-based, and DHS in particular has spent the past year standing up the automated indicator sharing platform. I'd love to get your thoughts on that and whether you think that that is a good step for the way that the government interacts with the private sector on cybersecurity, or if you think another agency should be involved. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, now the good news is, do I think another agency should be involved? Absolutely. And the good news is other agencies are involved, right? This is not a DHS is the answer and the only answer, or NSA is the answer, or FBI is there's so much work to be done, and it spans across so many different roles and responsibilities and authorities and competing interests. So it's incredibly important that everybody stay actively engaged in the cyber domain and contribute what they can. Programs like that at DHS and similar programs from Department of Commerce and NIST, things that can help define standards or define requirements and help the private sector rise to the occasion. If the government defines standards and requirements, usually in collaboration with the private sector and those developing security solutions will rise to the occasion. The government represents a tremendous market, and if these requirements exist for the government, they are going to exist in the private sector too. And so vendors will rise to the occasion. And then those security capabilities, the automated information sharing capabilities, the threat intelligence, all of these capabilities will not only help the government better protect itself, but they will spill over into the private sector, enable critical infrastructure operators to protect themselves. So I think these are seemingly small steps forward, but they represent a strategic approach that's incredibly powerful.
So in a few months, we're going to have a new administration. Moving forward, what advice would you impart onto an incoming administration in order to improve cybersecurity, whether it is in the private sector or the public sector, and how they, just raise their cyber awareness or enhance the cyber landscape?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the good news is there's a number of efforts underway currently to generate a series of thoughtful insights and recommendations for a new administration to consider. Among these are the President's Commission, there's a Center for Strategic and International Studies, the CSIS Commission that has an effort underway. I think the Center for Internet Security has a commission underway. So there's a number of these efforts underway. What I would recommend, and the good news is cyber awareness, even in both of the campaigns, has increased its prominence.
Right.
There's discussion around it. This is a step forward from where we were 4 years ago and 8 years ago and 12 years ago. So this issue is increasingly critical and it's increasingly prominent even on the campaign trail. What I would caution, right? We want to move fast, and there's a bunch of no regret initiatives. There's also some areas where we want to move very cautiously. Things like crypto policy, which may cause increased exposure and weakness in critical infrastructure and may decrease U.S. competitiveness. So there's a number of issues which I would characterize as no regret initiatives, and I think we need to put some real wood behind the arrow and make sure that we move forward quickly when a new administration arrives on those. And then there's a series of issues which are equally as important, but need to be very thoughtfully considered before action is taken. And so I think you can really look at them in those two camps.
Great. Appreciate your insights, Amit. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, great speaking with you.
For all of our videos, check out our YouTube channel, and for more information, check out fedscoop.com. I'm Greg Otto. Thanks for watching.